What's up, guys? Welcome to Podcast 412, Fight for Purity. A bold way of looking at challenges that young people are facing. We'll talk about the naked truth of life and how to handle the problems you're thinking but not talking about. So strap in, get ready for another great podcast.
This podcast episode is not considered age appropriate due to discussion of drugs and alcohol and other sensitive topics. Parent or guardian discretion is advised. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. We're already on episode 8, and today we're going to be continuing on boundaries, and we're going to be talking about the boundaries of smell and emotions.
Smelly emotions.
Yes, smelly emotions. You want to start us off?
I have some smelly emotions. It's kind of embarrassing, but no, I guess so. Like, there was this guy that I had a crush on in like the 8th grade. Well, it started in like the 7th grade, but anyways, it's not the point. He would wear like this certain type of cologne, and it smelled really good. I really thought it smelled really nice, but I don't know if that's like what attracted me to him, because when I look back, he's not that great. He wasn't that great of a person either. So just like, because the smell, it like, I was just like, well, I like that smell, so maybe I like him. But I don't know how I put 2 and 2 together. But yeah, so now when I smell that smelly smell, it like takes me back to like, it like brings back like the old feelings per se. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, it just brings up an emotion that I had. Yeah. And it's horrible. I can't
All for a smell.
All for a smell.
And was this a good guy or a bad guy?
It was horrible. Absolutely.
So the smell deceived
you? Horrible, yes. I was deceived. I was blinded by the smell. Blinded by the light.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, because we're talking about boundaries, so the one thing that I was thinking about was, I mean, they're connected, obviously, smelling something brings back like a certain emotion, But one of the things I was thinking about as far as emotions go is like, how do you set boundaries on your emotions, And I think that's something that it's important for us to talk about is like, is it a good emotion, bad emotion? Like, how do you put a line, or how do you set boundaries, So I think if anybody wants to kind of jump in and, maybe give you their take on how do you do that.
So I think one of the things that you should do when it comes to emotion is like understand why you're feeling that way. Because sometimes sometimes you know why you're feeling that way. Because one of the episodes we were talking about touch, and we talked about how like when a certain person touches you, like, they brush against you, you get the giggles, and you get that little tingly feeling, and you think, because I like the way that feels, that I like that person. So you think, oh, I like that person now, when that's really not. That's not right, because you don't really like that person. You like the feeling that they're giving you. Yeah. So understanding that as far as that emotion goes, as far as liking, like understanding, like, do I actually like this person? Like this actual, like how they are, how we were talking about in one of our past episodes, what kind of person they are? Or is it just that I like the way they make me feel? And so I think that's I think that's a big thing, is like understanding where those emotions are coming, especially when it comes to relationships, like with like a romantic relationship, especially like understanding, why do I like this person? Why do I like being around this person? Is it because of when they touch me? Is it because of how they make me laugh? Is that why you like them? Because they make me giggle? And I think that's like a big thing. I don't know if anybody else has something to say about that.
Yeah, well, it makes me think too, even when you're feeling a certain way, or if you want to feel a certain way, because we can kind of make ourselves feel a certain way by the music we listen to, or if you want to remember somebody, you kind of like, oh, I used to do this with them, or, you know what I mean? You come back to those emotions of wanting to feel something again, and so I think sometimes when you feel like you have nothing and that person made you feel something, I think sometimes we can bring those on ourselves, you know, because I feel like I would do that too, you know, if I was like, gosh, I'm feeling lonely or something, and that person made me feel good, even if they weren't like always the best person. Just certain songs, like, oh, we used to listen to that song, or that song reminds me of them, or, you know, and I guess just being careful of what kind of doors you open, because sometimes, I don't know, I feel like sometimes when I was in those lonely states, it was like, you know, all of a sudden that person would pop up, you know, and I remember when I was going through something at one point, of feeling, I don't know if I felt lonely or just, I don't know what it was, but my emotions got to me. And so, social media was a big thing for me. It's not as bad now that I'm married, but when I wasn't, like, I knew if I went on there, I could find those people that would make me feel a certain way. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I don't know.
And I think too, like even like now, like depression's like a big thing, you know, and even having to like navigate that, you know, it's like really looking into like why are you depressed? You know, are you really depressed? You know, or is it just because you're just watching so many things and you're listening to so many things, you know, and you're feeding that, you know, it's like, I mean, I don't know, I haven't looked at the statistics, but I know like a large percentage of young people are depressed today, you know, and I don't know if it's because like there's legitimate reasons, you know. I know, like, I think when I was younger, I think I went through a time where I was like I guess suicidal, you know, and I think I had reason to be because I was I grew up like in a bad home, and there was like domestic violence and just a lot of things going on in my life. And so, but still being very young, like looking back, I think you have a tendency as a young person to feed into that, to start feeling like nobody cares, like my parents don't care, or my siblings don't, you know. You tell yourself, you tell yourself these things, you know. And I remember sitting, like, you know, just sitting somewhere, you know, by myself and telling myself things, you know. But when I look back, you know, I mean, you know, there were issues and there were problems, but not enough, you know, to where I should be like, you know, that depressed that I was like suicidal, you know. And so I think that's something that a lot of young people, you know, they listen to. But one thing I think I like that you said was that, you know, you can't rely like on your emotions, you know, they're not reliable, you know, and they're temporary, you know, they go up and they go down. You know, one day you'll be really happy and the next day, you know. And so I think just even recognizing that is realizing, you know, tomorrow you're not going to feel the same way as you did today, you know, about whatever situation, you know, that you're in, you know. So I think that's one way to look at it, is just knowing that you can't rely on your emotions, you know, because then if you rely on your emotions, you know, then, you know, it's easy to make yourself sad. You know, you listen to sad music, you know, and make yourself sad. Yeah, and you're gonna tell yourself, you know, the terrible things, and you're gonna be sad, you know, and you're resting everything on how you feel, and not really looking at, is this really the way things really are, you know?
Or is it just how I feel right now?
Yeah, it's just this moment, you know, and then understand, you know, tomorrow's a new day, you know, it's not gonna be the same, you know, or can I change, you know? You know, there's some things you can't change, but you know, there are some things you can, you know, but you don't have to feed into, you know. Or if you have anger issues too, you know, like why are you angry, you know? I think Elisa had a story of her neighbor when they were fighting.
Oh, my neighbor above me, he was fighting with this chick, and they were like yelling, and it was just, they were arguing. And then eventually everyone left, because there was a few people up there, but eventually everyone left, and there was only like one guy. And what he decided to do is, he was mad and I guess sad at the same time, so he like bumped his music to like, it was mad and sad music, and he was like singing his heart out, like, and I looked at the time, and it was 1 a.m. I was like, oh my gosh, I have somewhere to be tomorrow, and I just see, you know, like, just like, at first it was like angry songs, like really like cussing every other word, and like just angry songs, and he's singing it like singing it out. And then it turned, I think there was like a country song in there that was all sad sounding and everything, and he knew all the words to that one too. And so like just the fact that like I get like venting versus like getting violent and getting violent or getting depressed or whatever. I understand venting. There is a space for that. But our biggest issue, I think, for everyone is they stay there.
Yeah.
Everyone stays in that I'm sad, and then they decide to be sad the next day, and they decide to be sad. So at first, yes, it is circumstantial. Like things happen to you that are out of your control that, that had nothing to do with you, and it wasn't necessarily your fault. Or maybe it was, and you put yourself in a bad situation and you had no control. So yes, I understand being sad in that moment, being angry in that moment, but you have to realize, don't stay in that moment for the rest of your life, like
licking your wounds.
Yeah, don't be. I remember someone telling me like nobody has to teach you to throw yourself a pity party. No one has to teach you that. You do that all by yourself. And so I know some people like they get themselves into situations and they're like angry, or they feel like, oh, I had a right to feel this way. So yes, they might listen to a song, or they might, try and talk to somebody. But some people just tell their problems over and over in hopes that you'll be on their side. Mm-hmm. So that they feel
validated.
Yeah, yes, I reacted correctly.
And they'll search for someone to validate it. Even if everyone else is telling them no, they'll continue to search out to find someone to validate their feelings in that, and that's kind of dangerous. If you're having everyone tell you no, if you're having like 10 people say the same thing.
Just because one person said yes. Yeah.
They'll be like, well, there it is.
Yeah, I was right in my emotions, and then you just live there like how you're saying.
We'll be right back after this short break.
Death to my depression and anxiety. Death to all my stress and what I'm trying to be. I'ma get live, 'cause I'm still alive. And if I ain't die, ain't no way I'm giving up now. I ain't done. I ain't done. I ain't done. As long as the breath in my lungs, I ain't done. I ain't done.
Well, I was like, when Debbie brought up the whole unaliving situation, like I've seen the negative effects of that. Like there was a girl in high school. I wasn't close to her, but my friend was. And so I went with her to the funeral. But just like looking on the outside, just like seeing like the distraught of the families, I was just like, and like I don't really know the reason why she did it. I've heard one reason was because I think it was they said it was over a boy, but I don't know how true that is. And so like, just because like the feelings that they had, I don't know the situation that it had, but because she decided to stay in that, to like really dwell on that, it took hold of her mind, and unfortunately it took her life. But like, that's the thing, like we don't see what it's going to do to the others around us per se.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, well, a lot of people you don't think about that, about how your emotions affect others. That doesn't mean like bottle up your emotions.
no,
Not,
don't do that
like
either.
that's not what we're
not how
saying. No. But like it does mean like being aware. It means being aware of yourself. Is really what it is. It means calling for a little bit of self-control. Because like I said, in the moment, sometimes you got to vent, cause otherwise you're going to do something stupid. You're just like, I just need to get this out, so that way I don't feel like this later. And that's fine. Sometimes you got to have a good cry. Sometimes you got to listen to the angry song.
But don't continue listening to the angry
but not
song.
over and over again.
Yeah, but not over and over. You shouldn't be listening to that sad or angry song for 3 hours on end. That's too long. And like with things like even if it, like you were saying, if it was over a boy, that's because she like, I'm not downing her or anything, but that means that somehow or other her emotions got so attached to this other person because she didn't take control, she didn't rein them in and decide this is or isn't good for me, that happened. And that's what's really important, especially when you're young. Our emotions are all over the place when we're younger. And like you said, they change from day to day, you know, from hour to hour. You know, they can go all over the place. And realizing that doesn't have to be your state of mind all the time. You know, you have control over your emotions, like later on. You know, you have control. You have to have control. You can't be angry all the time, because there's no way to function. You can't be sad all the time, otherwise you're not going to be able to function in life. And I think that's like, I don't know, like that's just like really important.
Well, in those younger years, I think that's when you start to form those habits of how you're going to handle stuff. And it's important to find somebody that you can talk to that'll help you work through those. You know what I mean? Because when you're young, you feel so deeply. You know, you feel everything so deeply. You know, even like young ages, you know, like when I tell my daughter, no, you can't have that. It's like, I just like, like I just stole everything from her. You know what I mean? And so like, you know, and I think those, like, the young ages are so important. And that's, like, the whole purpose of doing the podcast for, like, this age group, is because you learn so much about yourself, and you learn how to navigate through the rest of your life at these young ages, you know what I mean? And not that you're always going to do it right, you know? I mean, as an adult, I don't always handle it right, you know?
And even just understanding that your emotions are like that. Just knowing that, hey, you know, your emotions are going to be everywhere, and not relying on that, you know, like you said, you know, and not feeding into it, you know, like you said, you know, you're sad, okay, you're sad, but you know, you don't have to listen to sad songs all day, because that's not going to help you, you know, or even if you're angry, you know, and then even think about, like, your emotions affect other people, you know, because when you're mad, you know, you take that anger out on other people, you know, and so you have to learn as well.
And that's the importance of like what she was saying, don't bottle it up either. Because sometimes you'll bottle it up for so long, and then something minuscule will happen, and then that's you like blow up, and then everyone's like, what the heck, I just dropped my milk, you know, like, sorry, like, you know. Like, you know.
And just simple things. I mean, go for a walk, you know, go for a walk, or go call somebody on the phone, or, you know, do something, you know. I know, like, for me, you know, I go running, you know, to de-stress, you know, and that helps, you know, because I get all my energy out, you know, or, you know, go hiking or go swimming, do something, you know, that's going to help you feel better about, you know, where you're at, you know.
Give you a clear mind.
Just to clear it up. And that way you can look at things like the proper way, because sometimes, you know, when you're sad, everything's sad, you know, like the whole world's falling apart,
or
you
when
know?
you're mad, everybody was doing it on purpose to you.
And so it's like learning to just rein that, like you said, rein that in, you know, so that you can have a good perspective. Okay, it's not that bad, you know, maybe it is bad, maybe, you know, you do have a legitimate, like, real reason to be sad, but you don't have to feed that, you know. You can climb your way out of that, you know, just by the things, even by the things that you tell yourself, you know, just talking to yourself, you know, and just, you know, finding people, like you said, that will encourage you, you know, or like I said, just what you're listening to, what you're watching, you know. Don't go watch a sad movie, you know,
like the typical breakup, you know, I broke up with somebody.
Don't go watch the Titanic.
Yeah, don't go watching like sad breakup movies, you know, or the romantic movies, because you're like, I don't have that no more, you know. You're like, don't make it worse. You know, something I did want to say was, like, you talked about earlier, saying, like, you were thinking to yourself, like nobody loves me, like nobody cares about me. I think as teenagers we feel that, like, you feel that way a lot. You feel like nobody's listening. You feel like nobody cares what you have to say. You're not important. Your emotions, you know, I'm being ignored, all of this other stuff. And as teenagers, I remember, like, I held all of that in. Like, I didn't tell anybody, just because, I guess, like, because you already feel that way, and you feel like if you tell somebody, it's just going to confirm what you already believe. But I think as a teenager, you do need to tell somebody. Like, if you feel like a lot that you're being ignored, or you feel like nobody's listening to you, like, go tell somebody, like, hey man, like, I am feeling this way, you know, like, I need help, or like, I need somebody, like, I need you to tell me that's not how it is, you know. You know, like, if you have a healthy relationship with your parents or with an older sibling, and you're like, hey, I feel ignored in the house, like, is Is it just me? Am I just being whatever? And you know, if it's a healthy relationship, they'll be like, yeah, it's just you. You're just getting lost in your emotions. It's okay, I promise. Yeah. You know, or if you have a healthy relationship with your parents or your guardian or whoever is watching over you at home, be like, hey, I feel like whenever I try and say something or suggest something, nobody's listening to me. Like, I feel like you just kind of brush over what I say. And sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable for the adult in the room, but it's something they need to know, because if that's genuinely how you feel, I think that's something that they need to know, so they can be like, oh, my bad. Like, I didn't realize I was doing that to you. I didn't realize I was making you feel that way. Let me fix things so that we can have a better relationship. Because I know my older sister, she says her oldest daughter, she's like in 3rd grade now. She said she always feels like she's overlooked, and that because she's a really good girl, and like in school and in class, she gets all the answers right. She's the good kid, you know. She helps the teacher, you know, everything. And she told her mom that, like, I always feel like nobody notices when I do good things. I'm only noticed when I do bad things. Or, you know, like, or I don't get noticed at all because I'm being so good, like nobody notices me. And so, like, it's good that she told her mom, because now her mom's like, oh, okay, so I need to be conscious and tell her, hey, thank you for doing this, or thank you for being this way. And I think that's important for those of you who are like the really well-behaved kids, you know, or like the really smart kids, or you're really good at something and you feel like nobody notices. Say something, so that way it's not bottled up, and later on when you're like 15, you're like, nobody notices when I'm good, so there's no point in being good anymore. You know, and so that's a big thing, like when it comes to your emotions, understanding where it's coming from and realizing you can do something to change it. If it's something in your control with something like that, like realizing like, hey, I can talk to somebody. Don't go talking to the person who's going to help you feel more sad. Like,
yeah. And sometimes our parents don't always respond right either, but that has nothing to do with you. You know, that has to do something with themselves. And yeah, and they maybe didn't have anyone else either, you know. I mean, that doesn't excuse them, you know, because I've had parts of me where when I was growing up, my mom would always say, well, why don't you tell me? Why do you just wait? And it's like, well, because you never listen, or you don't want to hear what I have to say, because sometimes parents don't want to hear the truth, because we fail as parents, like all the time, you know. And so she would tell me, you know, and so when I was younger and I'd finally say something, because she'd be like, what's going on with you, you know, and all this stuff, and I would just blow up. Like, I would just scream and yell, and she's like, why are you doing that? Because like, even when I talk to you, you talk over me, you know, and when I'm trying to say stuff. So I don't know if some kids, like with their parents, they don't listen, you know, and they might not respond right, but at least they know. You know, one person I could go to is my grandma, and she was always tell me, because I'm like, my mom doesn't listen to me anyways, why am I going to tell her how I feel about this? And she's always like, write her a letter and leave it for her somewhere, because she's going to read it, you know, and she may not say anything ever, and she never did, but she knows how you feel, you know, and she knows that that's there. And so, you know, and write a letter if you feel like your parents don't listen, and you know, and if they respond wrong, that's not on you, that's on them, you know. And so I think that's important to know too, because I mean, some parents do listen, but some
don't.
Don't.
We make mistakes. Everybody's human. Unfortunately, we're gonna make mistakes.
I mean, we don't want to see how bad we are either, you know. Don't tell me I'm a bad parent. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
And I just want to say, I don't know how much time we have left, but I feel like I need to say something. I just want to say, like, you know, if you are feeling like those emotions of not being here, of taking yourself out, just know people will miss you. Sorry.
It's such a lie, huh? To like think nobody will miss you. There's so many people around, you know. Yeah. And to feel,
Yeah, and that's the thing is that we're trying to say is don't feed into it. You know, don't feed it. You know, like understanding that, you know, like you said, there's things that are beyond your control, but you know, your emotions is something that you can get a handle on. Your emotions are something that you can say, you know what, okay, I'm not gonna let myself go down that road, you know, and I'm gonna, I can't change this, I can't change that, you know, but I don't have to feel this way, you know, and just understanding that you're valuable and that you're important, you know. You know, you might not think so, or maybe you don't think your parents or whoever, you know, but you are valuable and you're important, and you do have things to be thankful for, you know. And so I think the biggest thing, like I said, is just not allowing yourself don't let your emotions take you like on a ride, because you don't have to get on that, you don't have to get on that train, you know what I mean? And so that's what we're trying to stay with, as far as the boundaries there, is that
Your emotions aren't in control. You are.
Yeah.
You're in control. You've got the wheel.
Yeah.
If you feel yourself getting all crazy, just be like, whoa, hold on. And that's going to have to be it for tonight. So we'll talk a little bit more about that next time. All right.
we'll see you back
Thank
then.
you. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Join us for our next podcast. You can contact us through Instagram at podcast412 or email us at 412fight@gmail.com. See you next time.